Sterile wealthy CEO hires girl on contract for triplets. Finds out she's a virgin and falls in love. She expected a clinical procedure with doctors and tubes. Instead, the billionaire's legal team delivered shocking news. What would you sacrifice for someone you love? How far would you go to save your family's legacy? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The pen hovered over the final line of the contract. $1.5 million for the temporary use of her body, the permanent surrender of any children conceived, and the irrevocable silence about the billionaire who would never know her name. Alana Brooks took a deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as the lawyer watched with practiced indifference. 24 years of careful choices, responsible decisions, and moral boundaries, all about to be crossed with a single signature. The funds will be transferred in 3 installments. The silver-haired attorney explained, his voice as cold as the leather chair beneath her. 1/3 upon signing, 1/3 upon confirmed pregnancy, and the final payment upon successful delivery. Successful delivery. Such clinical language for bringing life into the world. The fertility clinic's consultation room smelled of antiseptic ambition. Sleek, sterile, devoid of the messy emotions that typically accompanied the creation of life. Through the window, Atlanta's skyline shimmered in the late afternoon sun. A world away from the small-town Georgia home where her mother was packing their belongings, preparing for the foreclosure that this contract would now prevent. And I'll never meet him? The biological father, Alana asked, hating how her voice betrayed her nervousness. Mr. Whitford values his privacy above all else. That's why her compensation is so generous. The lawyer's thin smile never reached his eyes. The confidentiality clause is absolute. Breach it, and you forfeit everything, including custody rights you've already signed away. Alana nodded, pushing away thoughts of the clinical procedure awaiting her. Some nameless man's genetic material would enter her body, grow inside her for 9 months, and then be taken away forever. A transaction, nothing more. She'd always imagined her first pregnancy surrounded by love, by family, by a partner who would place gentle hands on her growing belly with wonder. Instead, she would endure it alone, a vessel for hire. But her mother's medical bills hadn't left room for fairy tales. The second mortgage, the maxed-out credit cards, the calls from collection agencies, they all disappeared with this signature. 1 year of her life traded for her mother's security. Ms. Brooks? We don't have all day. The lawyer tapped his Mont Blanc pen against the contract impatiently. What would you sacrifice for someone you love? How far would you go to save your family's legacy? I'm curious if you'd cross lines you never imagined. Tell me in the comments. Alana signed her name with a decisive stroke, refusing to let tears fall. She was doing this for her mother, who had sacrificed everything to raise her after her father abandoned them. She was doing this for the nursing career she could finally pursue once the money came through. She was doing this because sometimes love meant hard choices. As the lawyer collected the signed documents, he delivered his final instruction. Mr. Whitford expects discretion above all else. Remember, you're not creating a child. You're fulfilling a business transaction. If only her heart understood the difference. She expected a clinical procedure with doctors and tubes. Instead, the billionaire's legal team delivered shocking news. The fertility drugs had worked too well. Multiple eggs were ready, and Mr. Whitford insisted on natural conception to maximize chances of success. Absolutely not, Alana said, standing up so quickly the chair nearly toppled behind her. The contract specified artificial insemination. I never agreed to actually be with someone. The female attorney, different from the one who had handled the initial contract, maintained perfect composure. Mr. Whitford is prepared to triple the compensation. Given your financial situation, I assumed you'd be amenable. Triple. That wasn't just her mother's house and medical bills. That was her entire nursing school education paid in full, with enough left over to start a new life afterward. The choice is yours, Ms. Brooks, the attorney continued, sliding a folder across the table. but you should know that Mr. Whitford's previous attempts with other surrogates have failed. The medical team believes the personal approach increases viability substantially. Alana's hand shook as she opened the folder. The revised contract included an additional $3 million. She thought of her mother, of the smaller house they'd found in a safer neighborhood, of the specialized treatments not covered by insurance. "One time," she whispered, "one evening, Hotel Suite. Security and discretion guaranteed. If pregnancy doesn't result, the arrangement ends with a generous compensation for your time." 48 hours later, Alana stood in the presidential suite of Atlanta's most exclusive hotel, wearing a dress provided for her that probably cost more than her mother's car. The room spread before her in understated luxury, cream-colored furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city lights, a bed that dominated the far wall with its massive presence. When he entered, she knew immediately it was him. Daniel Whitford moved with the confidence of a man accustomed to owning every room he entered. Tall, with dark hair graying perfectly at the temples, his face was all angles and authority. His eyes, a piercing blue that appeared gray in certain light, assessed her without emotion. "Ms. Brooks." His voice matched his appearance, controlled, deep, detached. "I trust my team," explained the revised arrangement. The presidential suite transformed into a neutral zone, champagne untouched, lights dimmed to shadows, classical music attempting to disguise the transaction occurring between strangers. "Yes," she managed, fighting the urge to cross her arms over her chest. "I've agreed to the terms." He nodded once, removing his suit jacket and carefully placing it over a chair. "This is a business arrangement, nothing more. I don't expect conversation or performance. The medical team believes you're at optimal fertility today. Have you ever made a decision that felt wrong in every way except the most important one? Drop a heart if you've sacrificed your principles for someone you love." What followed was nothing like Alana had imagined her first time would be. Clinical wasn't the right word. He wasn't rough or unkind. But there was an emotional wall between them so thick she could almost see it. His surprise at her physical response, at her sharp intake of breath, registered briefly in his eyes before he continued with careful control. When he realized her inexperience, something shifted in his approach. His movements became gentler, his hands more attentive. For a brief moment, as her body responded to sensations she'd never experienced, their eyes met, and something like genuine connection flashed between them before he looked away. Afterward, he maintained perfect composure, distance immediately reinstated. "This changes nothing about our arrangement," he said, voice steady as he straightened his tie. "The contract remains exactly as written." He left without looking back, and Alana curled into herself, wondering if the hollow feeling in her chest would fade before the pregnancy test she was scheduled to take in 3 weeks. It didn't. 3 weeks later, the pregnancy test showed positive. Not just pregnant, but hormone levels suggesting multiple embryos had implanted. One night had created more than a business arrangement. It had created life that would bind them forever. The doctor's voice echoed through the conference call. "Congratulations, Mr. Whitford. Against all medical odds, you're expecting triplets." No one mentioned the medical impossibility that haunted the room. A sterile man cannot father children. Daniel Whitford ended the call with a controlled press of his finger, then stood perfectly still behind his desk, staring out at the Dallas skyline he had systematically conquered over the past 20 years. 3 glass and steel towers bearing his name punctuated the horizon, monuments to his precision and control. Control that was now slipping away. "Give me everything on Alana Brooks," he said to his chief of security without turning around. "Every man she's been with. Every place she's visited since signing our contract. I want to know who the actual father is." "Yes, sir." "And the girl. Move her to a secure location. No contact with anyone until we sort this out." His voice remained perfectly even, betraying none of the rage boiling beneath his surface. "If she thinks she can pass off another man's children as mine for financial gain, she's gravely miscalculated. His private office on the 40th floor overlooked a Dallas skyline he had personally reshaped, yet control was slipping through his fingers like sand. The medical diagnosis had come 15 years ago, after his brief, disastrous marriage ended. Complete sterility due to a childhood illness. It had shaped every decision since, focusing him entirely on building a legacy that wouldn't include biological heirs. Until now, despite his fury, unwanted memories surfaced. Her soft gasp when he first touched her, the unexpected warmth in those amber eyes, the way her body had responded to his with surprising intensity for someone so inexperienced. He'd told himself it was just physical, a necessary transaction, but something about her had gotten under his skin. Daniel loosened his tie, irritated by the physical response these memories triggered. 3 weeks of disciplined focus, of burying that night under layers of work and deals, undone by a single phone call claiming the impossible. What would you do if everything you believed about yourself was suddenly questioned? If the impossible happened in your life, would you embrace it or fight it? Comment below. The investigation took less than 48 hours. His security team was nothing if not thorough. When his chief of security requested an urgent meeting, Daniel prepared himself for confirmation of deception. Well, he demanded as soon as the door closed. Who is he? The investigator shifted uncomfortably. There's no he, Mr. Whitford. We've conducted exhaustive background checks, digital surveillance, medical record analysis. MS. Brooks has no significant male relationships. Her social media is minimal, her routine consistent. Work at the hospital, home to care for her mother, occasional coffee with 2 female friends from nursing school. That's impossible. Check again. Sir, we've been thorough. Her medical records confirm she was untouched before your encounter. The OBGYN visit the week before your meeting confirms it. Daniel's world tilted slightly. And my medical diagnosis? We pulled your original records. The doctor noted extremely low sperm count, not complete sterility. He advised it was highly improbable you could father children naturally, but not impossible. Subsequent doctors may have oversimplified in their communications with you. Daniel sat down heavily, processing this information. Where is she now? At the safe house in Houston, as instructed. She's been cooperative but upset about being separated from her mother. The investigator placed a folder on his desk. She's clean, sir. No other partners. No hiding agenda. Medical history confirms she was untouched before you. Daniel stared at the photo of Alana, the woman carrying his supposedly impossible children, and made the decision that would change everything. Bring her to Dallas. Now, she expected to be flown to Dallas for a medical examination, not to be installed in the east wing of a mansion with security guards disguised as household staff and a closet filled with designer maternity clothes that still had price tags attached. Alana stood at the bedroom window, watching gardens spread before her like something from a magazine. The property seemed endless, manicured lawns, a tennis court visible in the distance, what appeared to be a small lake glimmering beyond that. Prison had never looked so beautiful. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Without waiting for a response, Daniel Whitford entered, as commanding in casual clothes as he had been in his tailored suit weeks ago. Ms. Brooks, I trust you're finding everything satisfactory. His tone made it clear this wasn't actually a question. Why am I here? Alana asked directly. Your lawyer said I needed additional medical tests, not a luxury lockdown. Circumstances have changed. He walked further into the room, hands in the pockets of trousers that probably cost more than her monthly rent. You're carrying triplets that medical science says shouldn't exist. The guest suite was larger than her entire childhood home, with windows overlooking manicured gardens and a bathroom of marble and gold that made her feel like an imposter in a fairy tale. So you've kidnapped me because your swimmers worked better than expected? She crossed her arms protectively over her still flat stomach. I fulfilled my part of our arrangement. I didn't ask to be isolated from my mother or treated like a suspect. Something flashed in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, at her directness. Your mother is being well cared for. I've arranged for home health care and covered all her expenses. without asking me, without considering that maybe I'd prefer to be with her during her recovery. Alana felt tears threatening and blinked them away furiously. I signed up to carry your child, not to become your prisoner. Daniel moved to the window, creating space between them. These children represent the Whitford legacy, a legacy medical professionals assured me was impossible. You understand my caution. The implication hung in the air between them. You think I slept with someone else? Her voice was dangerously quiet. You think I'm trying to pass off another man's babies as yours? The thought occurred. And did your investigation satisfy your suspicions? Her chin lifted defiantly. His eyes widened slightly. You knew. I'm not stupid, Mr. Whitford. The questions from your security team weren't subtle. The background checks. The people interviewing my co-workers. She stepped closer, anger overriding intimidation. Did you find what you were looking for? The imaginary man I supposedly slept with between your medical treatments and your team, watching my every move? Have you ever been misjudged based on assumptions? Been placed in a box you didn't belong in? Share your experience of proving someone wrong. That evening, unable to sleep in the too-soft bed, Alana wandered the mansion's quiet halls. The night kitchen beckoned with promises of comfort food, something familiar in this strange new reality. She didn't expect to find Daniel there, suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, staring into a tumbler of amber liquid. He looked up, clearly surprised to see her. For a moment, they simply regarded each other. Two people connected by circumstance and biology, but nothing else. You should be resting, he said finally. And you should be less controlling, but we can't always get what we want. The words slipped out before she could stop them. To her surprise, one corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Fair point. He gestured to the chair across from him. Hungry. She hesitated before sitting down. The doctor says I should eat small meals throughout the day. The triplets take a lot of energy. Daniel nodded, then pushed his untouched plate of fruit toward her. I owe you an apology. My behavior has been reactive. You accused me of cheating on a contract and practically kidnapped me. Reactive seems mild. I've spent 15 years believing biological children were impossible for me. Finding out otherwise has been disorienting. Their eyes met across the table, tension crackling between them that wasn't entirely anger. I don't care about your money, Mr. Whitford, she said, chin raised despite the tremor in her voice. I care about my dignity, something you clearly know nothing about. Before he could respond, she stood and left, heart pounding with a confusing mixture of indignation and unwanted attraction. The doctor confirmed what Daniel suspected. He was not clinically sterile as previously diagnosed, just extremely improbable. As he watched Alana through the garden window, one hand protectively cradling her growing belly, he realized the true impossibility wasn't the pregnancy. It was the unfamiliar warmth spreading through his chest every time she entered a room. The first time he felt his children move beneath his palm, Daniel Whitford, the man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking, found himself on his knees, face pressed against the swell of her belly, whispering promises to 3 tiny heartbeats. Alana froze, uncertain how to respond to this sudden intimacy. The weekly medical check in the mansion's converted examination room had become routine. Blood pressure, measurements, ultrasound. What wasn't routine was Daniel dropping to his knees when the doctor mentioned the babies were particularly active today. May I? He had asked, the first time he'd requested permission for anything since she'd known him. She nodded, and his large hand spread gently across her 16-week belly, waiting. When the first kick connected with his palm, his composure cracked completely. Now the doctor discreetly left the room, giving them privacy as Daniel maintained his position, whispering words she couldn't quite hear against her stretched skin. What are you telling them? She asked softly. He looked up, eyes suspiciously bright. That they'll never doubt they're wanted. That they'll never wonder if they're enough. He stood, composure returning like a mask sliding into place. Things I would have liked to hear. That evening established a new pattern. After dinner, they migrated to the home theater where negotiations over what to watch became a nightly ritual. Her craving for classic films his insistence on documentaries. Both pretending the growing pile of shared blankets and cushions wasn't creating something dangerously close to intimacy. "Were you close with your parents?" she asked during a documentary about deep-sea exploration. The darkness making confidences easier. Daniel was quiet, so long she thought he might not answer. "My father built the initial Whitford real estate holdings through methods that wouldn't withstand modern scrutiny. His lessons typically involved showing me who not to become." "And your mother?" "Beautiful, distant, more concerned with social standing than motherhood." His profile was sharp against the screen's glow. "She died when I was 12. Cancer. My father remarried within a year." Alana absorbed this, understanding more about the man beside her. "My dad left when I was 4. My mom worked 3 jobs, sometimes to keep us going. When she got sick last year, you signed a surrogacy contract to save her." He finished her thought, turning to face her. "I've been unfair to you, Alana, assuming the worst instead of recognizing the sacrifice." Her name on his lips felt intimate, dangerous. "The babies kicked again today during my nap," she said, changing the subject. "All 3 at once. Feels like they're playing soccer in there." Daniel's hand moved hesitantly toward her belly, pausing for permission. She nodded, and his warm palms spread across the curve. The babies, as if sensing him, began to move. His smile transformed his face from handsome to breathtaking. His scent, expensive cologne with notes of cedar, wrapped around her, making her heartbeat quicken traitorously. "When was the moment you realized someone was becoming important to you, despite all your intentions to keep them at arm's length? Tell me about that turning point." As weeks passed, the mansion became less a gilded cage and more shared space. Daniel worked from home more often, joining her for lunch, accompanying her on doctor visits, even adjusting business calls around her rest schedule. One evening, helping her navigate the grand staircase as her balance shifted with her growing belly, his hand lingered at the small of her back. The touch sent warmth cascading through her that had nothing to do with pregnancy hormones. "Thank you," she murmured, hyper-aware of his nearness. "For what?" he asked, voice lower than usual. "For seeing me as a person, not just a surrogate." Something changed in his expression, intensity replacing customary reserve. For a heartbeat, she thought he might kiss her. The realization that she wanted him to was terrifying. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the moment. The text message made her blood run cold. "We know who you are. We know about the babies. The Houston Chronicle will pay $100,000 for your exclusive story." She deleted it immediately, but not before Daniel saw the panic flash across her face and the secret she was desperately trying to hide. The front page showed them leaving the private clinic, his hand protectively at the small of her back. Billionaire's secret baby mama. Gold digger carrying Whitford triplets. And just like that, the safe world they'd created behind mansion walls shattered. "What did they find out?" Alana whispered, staring at the newspaper Daniel had slammed onto the breakfast table. Her face, clearly captured despite large sunglasses, looked frightened beside his thunderous expression. "Someone on my team leaked it." Daniel's voice was deadly quiet, phone already in hand as he barked orders to his security chief. "Find who talked. Now." Within hours, the story exploded across every platform. Television screens throughout the mansion displayed different news channels, all showing variations of the same story. Her yearbook photo, his corporate headshot, speculation about their relationship crawling across the bottom of every screen. Whitford, heir apparent, scrolled beneath footage of them entering his private doctor's office. Gold digger's genetic jackpot, proclaimed entertainment sites. Is the surrogate carrying America's newest billionaire babies? Asked financial channels, discussing how triplet heirs might affect Whitford industry stock. Alana watched in horror as her past was excavated and displayed. Her mother's financial troubles, her abandoned nursing career, even high school photos with captions suggesting she'd always aimed above her station. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears streaming down her face as Daniel paced the study. "I never wanted this for you." He stopped abruptly. "For me?" Confusion replaced anger briefly. "You're the one they're tearing apart. Your board members have been calling nonstop. Your assistant said the stock dropped 8% this morning. She wrapped protective arms around her belly, now prominently showing at 20 weeks. This affects your company, your reputation. Daniel crossed her, surprising her by taking her hands. Listen carefully. My reputation has weathered worse. The company will stabilize. What concerns me is you. The stress isn't good for you or the babies. His phone rang again, his executive assistant's ringtone. He answered with clear irritation. What now, Michael? Alana watched his expression harden as he listened. Tell the board the emergency meeting is denied. My personal life is not up for vote. His jaw tightened. They're welcome to express their concerns directly to me tomorrow. After hanging up, he turned to Alana. The board is demanding I issue a statement distancing myself from you and the pregnancy. Maybe you should, she said quietly. Your company. Stop. His voice was firm. I built that company. They need me more than I need them. He stepped closer, one hand moving to rest lightly on her belly where their daughters grew. And I'm not abandoning our children. Or you. The unexpected possessive hour made her heart stutter. Before she could respond, his security chief entered with urgent news. Reporters had somehow obtained her mother's address. Get her out of there, Daniel ordered. Bring her here. Full security detail. We turned back to Alana. She was staring at him with wonder. You do that? For my mother here? Of course. He looked confused by the question. She's family. Have you ever had your life reduced to someone else's headline? How did you reclaim your story? Share your experience below. That night, after seeing her mother settled into a comfortable suite down the hall, Alana found Daniel in his study, tension radiating from his shoulders as he reviewed emergency board documents. They're trying to push you out, aren't they? She asked from the doorway. He looked up, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. They're trying. They won't succeed. Because of me. Because of this scandal. Daniel set down his papers and crossed to her. Because they wanted control for years. You're just their convenient excuse. His hand moved to her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. You're not responsible for their greed. Something broke between them. The careful distance they'd maintained despite growing closer. His lips found hers with unexpected gentleness that quickly gave way to hunger as she responded. Months of tension, of growing connection beneath the contractual arrangement, of watching him transform from cold businessman to protective father, culminated in this moment. Their encounter was nothing like their first night together. No clinical detachment, no business transaction. This was heat and connection, his hands reverent on her changed body, her name on his lips like a prayer. When he pulled back to search her eyes for consent, for certainty, she knew this wasn't just physical release, but something far more dangerous. Afterward, wrapped in sheets that smelled of him, she whispered against his chest, "They're painting me as either your victim or your schemer. Why can't they see I'm neither? I'm just trying to survive." His arms tightened around her. We'll weather this. Together. But the morning brought harsh reality in the form of his private attorney arriving with grim news. The board's ultimatum arrived via his private attorney. Either end this arrangement with a mess. Brooks and deny paternity, or prepare for a vote of no confidence. Daniel crushed the paper in his fist. They had no idea what he was prepared to sacrifice for the 4 heartbeats that had become his world. She watched from the bedroom window as the helicopter landed, whisking Daniel away to the emergency board meeting where he would either save his empire or burn it to the ground for her and the babies. And she still didn't know which outcome terrified her more. He'll be fine, honey, her mother said, joining her at the window. Marion Brooks looked better than she had in months, the home health care and reduced stress already working wonders. That man didn't build what he has by letting others push him around. That's what scares me, Alana admitted. He's fighting this battle because of us. What if he loses everything? For what I've seen, he's finally finding what matters. Her mother squeezed her hand. Some men spend their whole lives building fortunes without ever understanding their true worth. In downtown Dallas, Daniel straightened his tie before entering the boardroom. Through glass walls, he could see 12 faces waiting, most with expressions ranging from concern to outright hostility. These were people he'd selected personally over the years, trusted advisors who had helped build Whitford Industries into a real estate and development powerhouse. The boardroom's glass walls showcased the Dallas skyline he'd helped shape, towers bearing the Whitford name, now potentially slipping from his grasp as 12 stern faces awaited his decision. "Let's make this brief," he said, remaining standing at the head of the table. "I've reviewed your concerns. I understand the stock volatility, but my personal life remains my business." Eliza Harmon, his longest-serving board member, spoke first. "Daniel, this isn't personal. It's fiduciary responsibility. The market is responding negatively to the scandal. 3 major investors have expressed concerns. Investors I brought to the table," Daniel reminded her. "Investors who trust my vision. Your vision didn't include a public spectacle with a gold digger," Richard Tanner interjected, his disdain evident. Daniel's expression hardened. "Be very careful, Richard. That gold digger is carrying my children." "Children from a paid arrangement," Tanner pressed. "An arrangement that's now threatening everything we've built. The solution is simple. Deny paternity publicly, distance yourself from the girl, handle support privately." "And my actual children? You suggest I publicly abandon them?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop with the coldness in Daniel's voice. "We're simply suggesting damage control." Eliza attempted to mediate. "Perhaps a temporary separation until the media loses interest. What would you choose if forced between legacy and love? Between what you've built and what you've found? I'm curious where your priorities would fall." Back at the mansion, Alana paced anxiously. The board meeting had been underway for hours with no word from Daniel. When her phone rang with his ringtone, she answered immediately. "Daniel? What's happening?" His voice was calm, steadier than she expected. "They're calling for a vote of no confidence. I thought you should know before it hits the news." "Because of me." Her voice cracked. "Because of us." "No," he corrected firmly. "Because I've outgrown their vision. Because they want control they haven't earned." He paused. "How are you feeling?" The question, so personal amid corporate crisis, made her heart clench. "We're fine. The babies are active today." "Good." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Whatever happens here changes nothing about us. Remember that." After they disconnected, Alana hugged her arms around herself, wondering when us had become a reality, when the contract had transformed into something neither of them had anticipated. The vote came after 3 hours of heated discussion. 7-5 in favor of removing Daniel as CEO, a single vote tipping the balance. As the corporate secretary recorded the result, a strange calm settled over Daniel. "I'll have my office clear by morning," he said, gathering his papers. "I trust you realize my voting shares remain intact." Richard Tanner's smug expression faltered. "You're still a minority shareholder. The board now controls direction." For now, Daniel buttoned his suit jacket. "I'd suggest reviewing the company bylaws, particularly the section about founders' privileges in cases of hostile removal." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. My personal legal team will be in touch about defamation concerning Ms. Brooks. I'd advise against repeating those gold digger comments to the press." When a vote of no confidence passed by a single ballot, Daniel loosened his tie with unexpected calm. "Gentlemen, ladies, you just made the biggest mistake of your careers. I'm not the man you think I am anymore." As he walked out of his empire, phone already dialing Alana's number, he felt lighter than he had in 20 years. The media called it the Whitford collapse, his stock plummeting 40% in a single day. But as he joined Alana on the private beach behind his Malibu sanctuary, Daniel realized he'd never felt richer. "Your entire financial team is in panic mode," she observed, watching him approach across the sand. "Shouldn't you be on a conference call instead of bringing me lemonade?" Daniel set the glasses down on the small table beside her lounge chair, taking in how the California sunshine highlighted the auburn in her hair. "They can handle the immediate fires. Some things are more important." The oceanfront property stood isolated on the cliff, glass walls bringing the Pacific's vastness inside, waves crashing below in rhythm with the mounting tension between them. No longer just contractual partners, but not yet lovers in the truest sense. Their escape to California had been hastily arranged, Daniel insisting they needed distance from the Dallas media circus. Alana's mother had opted to stay behind with a full security detail, claiming the sea air wouldn't agree with her recovering health. "I think she's playing matchmaker," Alana had confided during the private flight west. Now, a week into their coastal retreat, something had shifted between them. The business partnership had evolved into friendship, and their night together during the media crisis had opened an emotional door neither seemed willing to close. "Have your lawyers updated you about the board's counterattack?" she asked, making room for him to sit beside her. "They're trying to freeze my assets. It won't work." He settled next to her, his hand naturally finding its way to her belly where their daughters grew. "The company's valuable, but it's not my only investment. You don't seem worried about losing everything you've built." His eyes, reflecting the ocean blue, met hers. "I'm discovering that everything means something different than I thought." That evening, as sunset painted the sky in impossible colors, Daniel found Alana standing at the edge of the property, overlooking the water below. "My mother called," she said without turning. "The offers from tabloids have reached $500,000 for my side of the story." "Does that tempt you?" he asked, genuinely curious. She turned, eyebrow raised. "To publicly humiliate the father of my children for cash?" "No, Daniel. Not everyone has a price." "I didn't mean. I know what you meant." Her expression softened. "I'm just tired of everyone assuming I'm with you for financial gain. As if that's the only value I could possibly see in you." The vulnerability in her admission hung between them, ocean breeze carrying it like a confession. "What do you see in me?" he asked quietly. Instead of answering, she stepped closer, one hand rising to touch his face. The kiss that followed spoke volumes, tender at first, then deepening with months of built tension. They made their way inside as darkness fell, boundaries finally collapsing completely. Moonlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows as clothing gave way to exploration and discovery. Unlike their first night, clinical and detached, or their stress-fueled encounter during the media crisis, this coming together felt like recognition. Of possibilities, a future, of something neither had been looking for. When have you found strength in surrender? When has losing something opened the door to finding everything? Share your moment of beautiful defeat. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets with the sound of waves crashing below, Daniel traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I've built skyscrapers and destroyed competitors," he confessed, tracing her cheek with reverent fingers. "But nothing terrifies me more than how much I need you to stay after these babies are born." The raw honesty in his voice made her breath catch. Before she could respond, his phone lit up with his assistant's emergency code. Daniel answered immediately, face growing serious as he listened. "How bad?" he asked, sitting up. "When did it start?" He listened again. "Book the helicopter. We'll leave immediately." "What's wrong?" Alana asked, fear clutching at her heart. "Stock market manipulation. Someone's orchestrating a complete takedown of Whitford Industries." His expression was grim. "I need to get back to Dallas." "Of course. I'll pack." "No." He cut her off, softening it with a gentle touch. "You stay here. The stress isn't good for you or the babies. My security team will remain with you. But I need you safe." He kissed her forehead. "This could get ugly. I don't want you in the crossfire." They parted reluctantly 3 hours later, his helicopter waiting to rush him back to the corporate battlefield. Neither said the words hovering in the air between them. But as he kissed her goodbye, both knew something fundamental had changed. The prenatal alarm blared through the beach house at 3 a.m. Alana doubled over in pain, blood staining the sheets. "Too early," she gasped as Daniel's security chief carried her to the helicopter, her 25th week of pregnancy suddenly becoming a fight for 4 lives. The neonatal specialist didn't sugarcoat it. "We need to delay delivery as long as possible. Every day these babies stay inside increases their survival chances by 3%. Daniel had never been a praying man until that moment. When his helicopter touched down on the Los Angeles hospital roof, less than 4 hours after receiving the emergency call, Daniel ran through corridors with single-minded focus, security team struggling to keep pace. He found her in a private room, surrounded by medical equipment, face pale against white sheets, terror evident in her eyes. "You're here," she whispered as he reached for her hand. "Wild horses couldn't keep me away." He brushed hair from her forehead, cataloging the monitors, the 4 lines, the fetal heartbeat trackers showing 3 distinct patterns. "What happened?" "Placental abruption," she explained, medical knowledge from her nursing studies evident. "Partial, not complete. They've got me on medication to stop contractions and develop the baby's lungs faster in case." Her voice faltered. "In case they come early," he finished, squeezing her hand. "They won't. They're fighters like their mother." The hospital room transformed into their world. Medical monitors beeping life's fragile rhythm. Windows overlooking a Los Angeles that continued moving while their universe stood suspended between hope and catastrophe. Days blended together. Daniel canceled all business calls, delegated emergency decisions to trusted lieutenants, and refused to leave Alana's side. He slept in the recliner beside her bed, showered in the small attached bathroom, and learned every detail of her condition, quizzing doctors relentlessly. "You don't need to stay," she told him on the 4th day, watching him review medical journals on his tablet. "Your company is in crisis. The company will survive or it won't." He didn't look up from his research. "You and the babies are my priority." On day 6, Alana woke to find him bathing her face with a cool cloth, tender in a way that made her heart ache. "The nurse could do that," she murmured. "I wanted to." The simple honesty in his voice brought tears to her eyes. These moments of physical closeness, him helping her shift positions, supporting her during short approved walks around the room, sleeping close enough to hear each other's breathing, created intimacy deeper than their physical relationship had established. What crisis has revealed someone's true character to you? When have you seen someone's priorities clarified through emergency? Tell me about that revelation. 2 weeks passed with cautious stability. The bleeding stopped, contractions remained controlled with medication, and each day brought the babies closer to viability outside the womb. Daniel established a command center in the adjoining suite, managing his corporate crisis from afar while remaining minutes from Alana's side. News from Dallas grew increasingly concerning. Coordinated attacks on Whitford Industries continued, stock price plummeting, key projects mysteriously losing permits. "Someone's systematically destroying everything," his CFO reported during a secure video call. "This isn't random market movement. This is personal. Find out who," Daniel ordered, keeping his voice low to avoid disturbing Alana's rest in the next room. "Follow the money. Someone's benefiting from our collapse." Late that night, as Alana slept, Daniel received a text that connected final dots. The coordinated attack traced back to a shell company owned by Richard Tanner, the board member who had led the no-confidence vote. As anger coursed through him, his phone lit up with a call from his head of security. "Sir, we've intercepted communications between Tanner and the tabloids. They're planning to release doctored medical records suggesting the paternity of the triplets is in question." Daniel's fury crystallized into cold resolve. "When? Tomorrow morning. They've created fake documentation suggesting Ms. Brooks underwent fertility treatments with another donor before meeting you." After 2 weeks of tenuous stability, Alana woke to find Daniel on the phone, voice dangerously quiet. "If you release those doctored photos implying paternity fraud, I will dismantle your publication brick by brick." Someone on his board had declared war, and the battlefield was about to become their unborn children. The paternity test results sat sealed on the hospital tray between them. The answer to whether medical miracle or deception had created the 3 lives she carried, and Daniel realized with startling clarity that he no longer cared what the envelope contained. "We don't need to open it," he said, reaching for her hand instead of the envelope. Alana's eyes widened. "But your lawyers said." "My lawyers are concerned with legal battles. I'm concerned with us." He moved from the chair to perch carefully on the edge of her bed. "These are my daughters. I felt them kick. I've watched them grow. I've heard their heartbeats. But the tabloids, let them speculate. The truth is between us." Rain lashed against the hospital windows, the storm outside mirroring the one they'd weathered together. Dark clouds finally breaking to reveal unexpected light. Alana studied his face, searching for doubt and finding none. "You believe me?" "Without proof. I believe in what we've become." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently against hers. "The contract brought us together, but that's not what's keeping us together now." The moment hung between them, fragile and perfect, before his security chief knocked urgently. "Mr. Whitford, we've identified the source of the corporate attacks. Richard Tanner has been systematically shorting Whitford stock while sabotaging company projects." Daniel nodded, unsurprised. "Give me the SEC on the line and contact our major shareholders. It's time they understood exactly what the board has been doing." As his team mobilized, Daniel returned his full attention to Alana. "We're going to weather this. All of it. I know." Her confidence warmed him. "I've seen you fight for what matters." That night, with monitors beeping steadily and the rain continuing outside, Daniel finally allowed himself to touch her growing belly with the reverence he felt. Her permission, a simple nod with eyes bright, opened something between them that business arrangements and legal documents could never capture. His hands moved gently over her stretched skin, marveling at the changes her body had undergone to protect his children. When his lips followed the path his fingers had traced, the intimacy transcended physical desire, becoming something closer to worship. "I knew they were yours," she whispered. "I never needed that test." His forehead pressed against hers, voice rough with emotion. "Neither did I." "Not really. When has your trust in someone been tested and proven right? Or when have you trusted someone against all evidence and logic? Share your experience of faith rewarded." The following morning brought victory on multiple fronts. The SEC launched an investigation into Richard Tanner's market manipulation. Major shareholders rallied behind Daniel after seeing evidence of the board's deception, and Alana completed her third week of successful bed rest. As Daniel fielded congratulatory calls, the neonatologist entered with a tablet displaying the latest scans. Her expression immediately set off warning bells. "What's wrong?" Daniel asked, moving to Alana's side instinctively. The doctor placed the tablet where they both could see 3 distinct images, 3 tiny babies, perfect in formation except for a noticeable difference in one. Baby C is showing significantly decreased growth compared to her sisters, the doctor explained, pointing to measurements on the screen. "We call this selective intrauterine growth restriction. She's receiving less blood flow through her portion of the placenta." "What does that mean?" Alana asked, medical training warring with maternal fear. "It means difficult decisions." The doctor's face was grave as she continued with the latest scans. "One of the babies is significantly smaller than the others. We may need to consider selective intervention." The words hung in the air like poison. Choose which child might live by risking another. They placed 3 names in front of her, Emma, Olivia, and Charlotte, then asked which daughter might be sacrificed to save the others, as if naming them first might somehow make the unbearable choice possible. "Selective reduction gives the other 2 babies a better chance," the specialist explained, clinical terms failing to soften the horror of what she proposed. Baby C, Charlotte, is taking resources that could help her sisters thrive. Daniel's face had gone completely white. "You're asking us to choose which child to lose." "I'm presenting medical options," the doctor corrected gently. Many parents in multiple pregnancies face these decisions. Alana's hands cradled her belly protectively. "What are the risks if we refuse?" "All 3 babies could suffer complications. Premature delivery becomes more likely. Charlotte's chances remain concerning regardless." The consultation room felt airless. Medical terminology floating between specialists while Daniel and Alana clung to each other's hands, creating their own island of certainty amid medical ambiguity. "There must be alternatives," Daniel insisted, the businessman in him refusing to accept limited options. "Experimental treatments exist," another specialist offered hesitantly. "Laser procedures to redistribute blood flow, specialized monitoring, maternal steroid injections. They're not guaranteed, but they don't involve giving up on our daughter," Alana said firmly. Daniel nodded, decision made. We want to see every experimental option. Cost is irrelevant. The medical team exchanged glances, recognizing the determination before them. That night, alone in the hospital room, Alana broke down. What if we're being selfish? What if trying to save Charlotte hurts Emma and Olivia? Daniel gathered her carefully in his arms, mindful of monitors and 4 lines. With her parents, we fight for all of them, not just the strongest. I'm so scared, she whispered against his chest. Me too. His honesty bound them closer than any reassurance could have. Their vulnerability continued as night deepened. Alana confessed fears about her changed body, about whether he would find her attractive after childbirth, about the stretch marks already mapping her skin. Daniel's response was to gently trace each new line with reverent fingers, his touch conveying what words couldn't, that her transformation amazed rather than repelled him. Every mark is part of our story, he murmured, pressing his lips to a particularly prominent streak across her hip. Every change shows your strength. Have you faced an impossible choice that tested everything you believe? What anchored you during that storm? I'd love to hear your story of finding clarity in chaos. The experimental treatment protocol began immediately. Specialized vitamin infusions, carefully targeted medications, daily ultrasounds to monitor blood flow changes. Alana endured multiple needle sticks daily without complaint, focused entirely on giving Charlotte every chance. Daniel rarely left the hospital, converting the adjoining suite into a command center where he orchestrated his corporate counterattack while remaining minutes from Alana's side. Their world narrowed to medical readings, fetal heartbeats, and a determined fight for 3 lives. Your blood pressure's rising, the nurse noted during evening checks. Doctor wants to increase monitoring. Whatever it takes, Alana replied, exhaustion evident but resolve unbroken. Later that night, a team of specialists crowded into the room for an emergency assessment. The lead perinatologist's expression confirmed their fears before she spoke. The redistributive treatments aren't showing the improvement we'd hoped for. Charlotte's fluid levels are decreasing rapidly. Daniel's jaw tightened. What now? We need to discuss delivery options. Waiting carries increasing risks. But I'm only at 30 weeks, Alana protested. That's too early. The doctor nodded sympathetically. Ideally, yes. But sometimes the womb becomes more dangerous than the NICU. At 30 weeks, Alana's water broke during a routine scan, sending the medical team into control panic. As they rushed her to emergency delivery, Daniel pressed his lips to her forehead with fierce promise. All 4 of you are coming home. I accept no other outcome. 3 separate cries pierced the operating room. Tiny but determined, each unique as fingerprints, and Daniel Whitford, who had negotiated billions without emotion, wept openly as his daughters announced their arrival to the world. Emma, 2 pounds 4 ounces, the nurse called out, lifting a red-faced bundle wrapped in white. Olivia, 2 pounds 1 ounce, came moments later. Charlotte, 1 pound 9 ounces, the final announcement, the smallest baby making the most delicate sounds. Daniel watched, frozen between terror and wonder, as teams of specialists swarmed each isolette, attaching monitors and inserting tubes too small for his mind to comprehend. Go with them, Alana urged from the operating table, pale but alert as surgeons completed her C-section. Don't let them out of your sight. He hesitated, torn between the babies being wheeled toward the NICU and the woman who had given them life. I'll be fine, she insisted. They need you now. The NICU existed in its own time zone. Days and nights blending under fluorescent lights, the outside world reduced to the space between heartbeats on monitors, success measured in grams gained and milliliters consumed. Daniel learned a vocabulary he never wanted to know: bradycardia, desaturation events, gavage feeding, surfactant therapy. He memorized each daughter's medical details with the same precision he'd once devoted to business acquisitions, challenging doctors when protocols seemed insufficient. Alana joined him 24 hours later, wheeled to the NICU in her hospital bed against medical advice, refusing to remain separated from her daughters any longer. Charlotte had a rough night, the neonatologist explained, leading them to the smallest isolette where machines breathe for the tiniest Whitford daughter. Her lungs need more support than her sister's. Daniel watched Alana's face crumple, then reform into determined calm. What can we do? Talk to her. Let her hear your voices. Some studies suggest skin-to-skin contact helps, even through the isolette portholes. For 2 weeks, they established a grueling routine. Alana pumping breast milk every 3 hours while recovering from major surgery. Daniel managing feeding schedules and doctor consultations while remotely directing his legal team's dismantling of Richard Tanner's financial schemes. Neither complained, neither wavered. Emma and Olivia steadily improved, graduating from ventilators to CPAP machines, accepting increasing amounts of Alana's milk through feeding tubes. Charlotte fought harder, her tiny body working overtime for each milestone her sisters achieved more easily. She's like you, Alana observed, watching Daniel sit beside Charlotte's isolette, his large hand reaching through the porthole to let tiny fingers grasp his pinky. Refuses to give up no matter the odds. He smiled tiredly. I was thinking she takes after her mother's determination. What moment has completely rewritten your understanding of love? When have you witnessed someone transformed by circumstance? Share that powerful transition below. On day 18, Daniel arrived at the NICU to find Alana holding Emma against her bare chest, the baby wearing only a diaper, their skin-to-skin contact monitored by a hovering nurse. Kangaroo care, the nurse explained. Emma's stable enough now. Olivia might be ready tomorrow. And Charlotte? He asked, the familiar worry surfacing. We're taking it day by day, came the gentle reply. That evening, Alana found Daniel in the small private room the hospital had provided for them, reviewing documents with his attorney. Is everything okay? She asked, noting the serious expressions. Daniel dismissed his lawyer before answering. Just finalizing some arrangements. How are the girls? Charlotte kept her feeding down for the first time. Pride filled her voice. The doctors are cautiously optimistic. He pulled her carefully into his arms, mindful of her still healing body. You're amazing. Do you know that? She relaxed against him, allowing herself to absorb his strength. I couldn't do this without you. You won't have to, he promised, pressing a kiss to her temple. The moments stretched between them, comfortable silence born of shared battles and deepening connection. The contract ended the moment they were born, she whispered, watching him cradle Charlotte against his chest during their evening NICU visit. You fulfilled your obligations to me. His eyes met hers over their daughter's head. My obligation now is to make you understand how wrong you are. Before she could respond, a hospital administrator appeared, expression professionally neutral. Mr. Whitford, there are some legal representatives requesting to speak with you and Ms. Brooks regarding custody arrangements for the infants. Daniel's expression darkened. Send them to my attorney. We're busy caring for our daughters. They insist it's urgent. Something about contracts needing immediate resolution. When the lawyers arrived with custody papers, Daniel expected the worst, that she would take the babies and disappear. Instead, she had signed full custody over to him, her bags already packed, resignation letter attached. You wanted children, not a wife. I'm keeping my end of the bargain. The mansion nursery stood perfect and empty. 3 cribs with coordinating bedding, stuffed animals arranged just so, and a mother-shaped hole that no nanny could fill as the triplets cried for the heartbeat they'd known for 9 months. They won't settle, the night nurse reported, exhaustion evident as she bounced a wailing Olivia. All 3 wake each other up. We've tried everything. Daniel nodded, taking Olivia from her arms while Emma and Charlotte continued their protest from nearby bassinets. 2 weeks home from the NICU, and everyone was reaching breaking points. Get some rest, he told the nurse. I'll handle them. Alone with his daughters, Daniel felt the weight of Alana's absence like physical pain. She had vanished after signing custody papers, returning to her mother's home in Georgia despite his protests, his pleas, his offers of financial security. I won't trap you in a relationship out of obligation, she had said, eyes dry but voice breaking. The contract fulfilled its purpose. You have your children. And what about what you want? He had demanded. Her smile hadn't reached her eyes. I wanted to help my mother. I've done that. Now I need to rebuild my life. The triplets' synchronized wailing echoed through marble hallways designed for impressive acoustics, not the raw sounds of three hearts breaking alongside their fathers. "Your mother loves you," he whispered, gathering Charlotte into his other arm. "She's just scared and stubborn, like all of us Whitfords." He paced the nursery for hours, humming off-key melodies, telling the girls stories about stock markets and real estate developments until they finally surrendered to exhaustion. Placing them carefully in their cribs, he checked his phone for the 100th time. No messages, no calls. The silence from Georgia cut deeper than any corporate betrayal ever had. Each night, he dreamed of her, amber eyes watching him with that mixture of challenge and vulnerability that had captivated him against his will. He woke reaching for her, the phantom weight of her in his arms, leaving him hollow when consciousness returned. Marion Brooks answered on the fourth ring, her voice carefully neutral. "Mr. Whitford." "How is she?" Daniel asked, dispensing with pleasantries. A pause. "Hurting, though she won't admit it. The girls need her." He swallowed hard. "I need her." "Then perhaps you should have asked her to stay for those reasons, instead of waving a contract in her face." The rebuke landed with precision. "I didn't. You had lawyers deliver custody papers while she was still recovering from giving birth to your children," Marion interrupted. "What message did you think that would send?" Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. "That wasn't. I never wanted. The papers were to protect her rights, not remove them." "Then you might want to explain that to my daughter. When have you realized too late what truly matters? Have you ever had to chase what you pushed away? Tell me about your moment of clarity." The corporate jet landed in Atlanta 3 hours later, a carefully packed diaper bag and 3 car seats installed in the private vehicle waiting on the tarmac. Daniel had left the girls with his most trusted nanny, promising to return with their mother or not at all. He rehearsed speeches during the flight, practiced explanations and apologies, considered romantic gestures. All fell away when Marion opened the door to reveal Alana curled on the couch, thinner than she should be, shadows beneath her eyes matching his own. "The girls?" she asked immediately, fear flashing across her face. "With the nanny. They're physically fine, but..." He hesitated. "Charlotte's not thriving. None of them are, really." Alana's face crumpled. "What's wrong?" "They miss you. They cry constantly." Charlotte's weight gain has stalled. He took a step closer. "I miss you too. Daniel, I never meant to send you custody papers," he interrupted, words tumbling out. "That was my legal team overstepping. I wanted to establish your maternal rights, not terminate them." Confusion crossed her face. "But your assistant said..." "I fired her the next day when I discovered what happened." He raked a hand through his hair. "Alana, I don't want to raise our daughters alone. I don't want you to fulfill a contract. I want us to be a family." Before she could respond, his phone rang, the nanny's emergency ringtone. His heart dropped as he answered. The news sent ice through his veins. "We're coming now," he said, ending the call and turning to Alana with naked fear. Charlotte's been admitted to the hospital. Her breathing's deteriorated. When Charlotte's condition suddenly deteriorated, the specialist delivered the verdict without cushioning. She's not thriving. "Medically, everything's proper, but sometimes babies just need..." Daniel finished the sentence, already dialing Alana's number, their mother. They need their mother. She opened her mother's front door to find Daniel holding Charlotte. The smallest triplet wrapped in a pink blanket, skin too pale, monitor beeping warnings, and the words that broke through every wall. "Please come home. They're dying without you." The private jet waited, medical equipment already installed, a pediatric specialist standing by. No time for lengthy conversations or emotional negotiations. Charlotte needed her mother. Alana didn't hesitate, grabbing only her purse and phone before following Daniel to the waiting car. During the flight, she held Charlotte against her chest, the baby's erratic breathing slowly steadying against her heartbeat. "Her oxygen levels are improving already," the pediatric nurse noted, watching monitors with professional interest. "Remarkable." Rain poured down as they landed in Dallas, humidity wrapping around them like the complications they'd created. A man who had everything but what mattered most, facing a woman who had given everything, including her heart. At the hospital, Emma and Olivia waited in a private room, their faces lighting with recognition when Alana appeared. The reunion broke something in Daniel. Watching his daughters respond to their mother's voice, her touch, her presence. The mysterious maternal bond transcended contracts and custody arrangements, revealing the fundamental truth he'd been fighting. "They know you," he whispered, watching all 3 babies settle for the first time in weeks. "They've been waiting for you." Alana's eyes filled with tears. "I've missed them so much." After the doctors confirmed Charlotte's improvement, they agreed to discharge all 3 babies under strict monitoring conditions. The return to the mansion carried none of the tension of Alana's previous residence there. This time she entered not as a surrogate, but as a mother, her authority over her daughters absolute and unquestioned. That night, after settling the triplets in their nursery, Alana found Daniel in his study, staring at the contract that had brought them together, the document now meaningless in the face of what they'd become. "You kept it," she observed from the doorway. He looked up, exhaustion and hope warring in his expression. "It's where our story began, not where it should end." She moved into the room, stopping before him. "What happened with those custody papers, Daniel?" "The truth. My legal team drew them up to protect you, to ensure your rights as their mother regardless of the surrogacy origins. But the way they were presented..." He shook his head in self-recrimination. "It looked like I was holding you to the contract's terms, forcing you to give them up. And were you?" "No." His voice gained strength with conviction. "I was trying to give you a choice. I didn't want you to stay out of obligation." The understanding that washed over her face released something that had been tight in his chest for weeks. "I thought you were pushing me away, that you had what you wanted, your children. I want more than that." He stood, closing the distance between them. "I want their mother. I want the woman who fought for Charlotte when others suggested giving up. I want the family we've created." What followed was a reunion of bodies and hearts too long separated. In his bedroom, a space they'd never shared during her previous stay, they rediscovered each other with new purpose. This wasn't the clinical first encounter of their contract, nor the stress relief of their media crisis connection. This was recognition of what they'd become together, promises made with touch instead of words. What's the most meaningful risk you've taken for love? When have you put your heart on the line despite the potential for rejection? Share your brave moment below. Morning found them tangled together. The baby monitor's occasional sounds a reminder of responsibilities waiting. Daniel traced the curve of her hip, the stretch marks she'd once been self-conscious about, now battle scars he honored. "Stay," he whispered against her hair. "Not as their mother, not because of the babies. Stay for us." Alana turned in his arms, studying his face in the early light. "What exactly are you asking, Daniel?" "Everything." He brushed her hair from her face. "I don't want a contract anymore. I want a commitment." She hesitated, old fears surfacing. "Are you sure this isn't gratitude? Or convenience for the girls?" "I've lived without you," he said simply. "I never want to do it again." The monitor crackled with Charlotte's distinctive cry, calling them to parental duties. As they moved in practice coordination to attend their daughters, the rightness of their family unit was undeniable. As she placed the sleeping Charlotte between her sisters in the nursery, their tiny bodies immediately gravitating toward each other, Daniel knelt beside her with a velvet box. Inside, not a diamond ring, but a key. "Before you answer about forever, there's something I need to show you first." The building stood complete but unopened, the Alana Brooks Center for Maternal Support, etched in stone above doors designed to welcome women who, like her, had faced impossible choices for those they loved. "What is this?" she whispered, standing in the parking lot of what appeared to be a brand new medical facility, the triplets sleeping in their car seats. Daniel took her hand, leading her toward the entrance. "Something I started while you were on bed rest. It kept me sane during those weeks of uncertainty." Inside, the center revealed itself in purposeful spaces. Private consultation rooms, medical suites with home-like touches, financial counseling offices, childcare facilities, and a state-of-the-art NICU that rivaled any hospitals. "You built this for me?" Disbelief colored her voice as she turned slowly, taking in the scope of the project. For you, for women like you, for families facing medical crises without resources. Daniel watched her reaction carefully. The board didn't understand why Whitford Industries should venture into healthcare. It was one of many disagreements that led to our separation. Sunlight streamed through the center's windows, illuminating spaces designed for dignity. Medical suites without coldness, financial aid offices without judgment, childcare facilities that recognize the whole woman beyond her circumstance. We provide comprehensive support, medical care, financial assistance, housing if needed, legal advocacy. Pride edged his voice. No woman should have to choose between her dignity and her family's needs. Tears filled her eyes as understanding dawned. You used what happened to us to help others. I used what you taught me, he corrected. About sacrifice, about what really matters. He guided her through each department, explaining programs designed to support women in crisis pregnancies, families with NICU babies, mothers needing specialized care. The center would operate as a nonprofit, funded initially by Daniel's personal fortune, but designed to become self-sustaining through partnerships with major medical institutions. This is your legacy, she said, wonder replacing disbelief. Not just buildings with your name. Our legacy, he corrected, stopping before a wall of photographs. Medical teams, construction crews, administrative staff who had brought the center to life. If you wanted to be, in the center's administrative office, he finally opened the velvet box he'd been carrying. Inside lay not just a key, but a name badge identifying her as Alana Brooks, Executive Director. The center needs leadership from someone who understands its purpose firsthand, he explained. Someone who can finish her nursing degree while shaping how we help others. She stared at the badge, then at him, comprehension dawning. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a purpose, a partnership. He took her hands in his. The center opens next month. It can be your future with or without me in your life. Your choice, no strings attached. The genuine gift of freedom. To choose him not from necessity, but desire, broke the last of her resistance. And if I want strings? She asked, stepping closer. If I want attachments? His smile transformed his face, years of careful control giving way to open joy. Retrieving a second box from his pocket, he dropped to one knee before her. You offered your body for a contract, he said, voice rough with emotion as he slipped the ring on her finger. I'm offering my life without conditions, without end dates, without fine print. What unexpected journey has led you to exactly where you needed to be? How has life's detour become your destination? I'd love to hear your story of finding purpose through challenge. 1 year later, the center celebrated its anniversary with 3 special guests of honor. Emma, Olivia, and Charlotte Whitford, now healthy toddlers, charmed donors and staff alike as they tottered through halls their parents had built. Mrs. Whitford, a young woman, approached Alana hesitantly. I just wanted to thank you. The housing program here saved us when my husband lost his job during my high-risk pregnancy. Alana embraced her warmly. That's exactly why we exist. Across the room, Daniel watched his wife with pride as she moved confidently among staff and patients. Her medical knowledge and personal experience creating connections no amount of money could buy. The journey from surrogacy contract to family had transformed them both. Him from isolated billionaire to passionate advocate. Her from desperate young woman to confident professional. She's remarkable, Marion Brooks commented, joining Daniel as he supervised the triplets' exploration of the playroom. She is, he agreed. I'm still not sure what I did to deserve her. Marion smiled, watching Charlotte, once so fragile, fearlessly climb a small slide. You recognized her worth before she believed in herself, and then you helped her build something that matters. That night, after the celebration ended and the girls were asleep in their beds, Daniel found Alana on their bedroom balcony, gazing at the stars. Happy? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She leaned into his embrace, more than I ever thought possible. His hands moved to her stomach, where the slight rounding could now be detected beneath her dress. And the newest Whitford? How's our boy doing? Active, like his sisters. She turned in his arms, joy illuminating her face. "No contract this time. Just love. Just love," he repeated, sealing the promise with a kiss as natural as breathing. The only agreement we'll ever need. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional journeys that remind us how life's contracts often pale compared to the commitments of the heart. Tell me in the comments which part of Daniel and Alana's journey resonated most with you. Was it the sacrifice, the redemption, or the courage to choose love over legacy? Your stories matter to this community, so share them below.